Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to, I guess we're going to call this season 2 of the Broker Breakdown. Welcome back from the holiday break. Happy New Year, and welcome to 2023, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good couple of weeks off for myself, doing some stuff with family, having some downtime, kind of recharging in a sense.
Definitely gaming.
Yeah, getting in some time for that for sure. Doing
What
some
are
of your outside interests, right?
what are you grinding right now?
uh More or less just Warzone,
Yeah,
basically. But yeah, not much else going on.
that's fair. I just got back into Destiny, actually. Have you
Oh
ever
yeah,
heard it?
nothing. I don't know nothing about that.
It's it's a very because it's made by Bungie, but it's also I think Activision also like had to play on it too. But there's like so much like you don't realize like how much stuff's like in a game until you actually dive into it. And you're like, wow, this actually has like a lot. Like there's like campaign, then there's like dungeons, and then there's like an online where you can play other people and like the ranking system, and like there's a lot of things like to dive into that game. So I'm really happy that I got back into it because I'm actually really enjoying it at this moment.
Yeah, man. Everyone's got their own outside interest, right? It's either that or what show are you binge watching nowadays is what everyone's talking
Yeah,
about.
and I'm not a big TV guy. I'm not a big movie guy. Like I can't just sit there and like be like, "Oh, wow, this movie's great," cuz like the girlfriend always wants to go to like movie theaters and stuff, and like me, like if I don't like the movie in the first like 20-30 minutes, like I want to leave. Like I don't want to sit there for 2 hours watching this movie that I can't stand.
Right. You certainly got to be invested in a movie. You just got to know that that's what's going on that night at that point.
But I
That's
will
like, that's the task.
But I will say she's really got me into Yellowstone recently. Like we just finished season 4, so now we're on to season 5 with the new season. And I've really enjoyed that though.
Yeah, I know we watched it a lot. We haven't seen the new one 'cause it's on Paramount right now, I think, right?
Yeah, they moved it from Amazon onto Paramount. But there's like ways of like kind of like there's ways of like streaming it online and stuff if you really
Right.
want to.
Right. Yeah, we were big into that too. I was a big fan of that show.
Yeah, I've really liked it. So, but yeah, other than that, how was the rest of your Christmas?
It was all good. It was all good. Obviously, spend time with family and catch up with some friends and do all of the things that I think a lot of our viewers are probably doing the same thing, right? A little recharge. Some people are busier over Christmas than others. I know probably some industries I know I was talking to a guy in my one referral group there, and he works with just HVAC stuff and heating, AC, and everything else, and was saying that he had a very busy, stressful Christmas because we had that storm and people's heating systems were down, so you got all these calls coming in on Christmas Eve and whatnot. So everyone is in different places, right? When it comes to holiday, whether you're busy or not in your business.
Yeah, and I think for us it was a really like December is always a really slower month because again you have all the holidays, you have Hanukkah, you have Christmas, New Year's. Like people are just really not really taking a big concern over insurance and like financial services and stuff. So and then again, like a lot of companies, I was surprised. Like a lot of companies were closed a lot during like the holiday season. Like I was already getting like out of offices by like the 20th of December, and like I even had out of offices like still until tomorrow. Like some people are off until tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, people especially with families, they always take off, as much time as possible, right? You save a week for Christmas, and then if you take off those 5 days, you can kind of go into like almost 2 full weeks of vacation if you play it out properly. So especially families and whatnot, right? You might see a lot of that depending on who you're calling or whatnot.
But the good thing is we're back and ready to go for 2023. Super excited. Again, kind of the market that we're in, a little bit slow, really strict. But again, for the podcast anyways, me and Mike are super excited for some of the ideas and some of the guests that we're going to have on, not only in January, which we do have some to tell you guys about, but kind of moving forward and kind of what we want to see for the podcast in 2023 to kind of just improve the experience and kind of give more knowledge to our viewers on a weekly basis. So, Mike, the first one I kind of want to talk about is so we have our guest for next week. I'm super excited for it because I know this is something that a lot of viewers probably are really interested about because, again, kind of how the insurance market's going, how vehicle markets are going. But we're going to have Doug Bricknell from Wayne Pittman Ford out in Guelph, Ontario. He's going to come join the podcast next week and kind of talk about Ford's movement into electric vehicles.
It'll be. I'm excited for anyone from our dealer partners that are interested to come on for two reasons. One of which, it gives us as brokers a better insight into what we can kind of see with vehicles moving forward, especially specific brands, and kind of what not necessarily what the plays are, right? Because that's always a company specific idea, but where they want to head in the future, but just more or less trends they're seeing, right? So the same ways that we see certain trends with coverages, or I guess the big one always talks about is rate increases with insurance, or are there going to be new types of coverages available for types of losses we're seeing? Right, stuff changes in every business. So the interesting side of having car dealerships on the podcast, and specifically people in sales or management type roles, is that they have those trends and what they see moving forward, and kind of consumer changes, right, James? That's the big thing for us.
Yeah, because we kind of get like an outsider view on it, right? Because we can sit here all we want, we can research all the news articles that get posted and stuff, but when you actually have someone from outside the insurance world that we can also bounce ideas off of, it kind of gives us a more, I don't want to say like an unbiased, but definitely like an outsider's view on some of these topics that we talk about on a weekly basis.
Yeah, well, and especially with cars, I mean, over the last, I don't even know, maybe let's just say 5 years more specifically, I mean, EV vehicles have been a hot topic for a long time now. You see more and more of them on the road. You see more and more companies starting to provide, fleet type vehicles in that setting. Companies are going, other specific companies are going to like, EV fleets. You've seen certain companies make those types of adjustments. So it'll be interesting to see the trends, and even further trends, what's going to happen down the road, right? And how that affects car insurance, how it possibly affects home insurance, gas, all that stuff that affects cars.
Exactly. That's a great point, because a lot of people don't realize that the repercussions maybe isn't the right word, but the kind of, I guess, the domino effect on like electric vehicles. Because again, the insurance industry has to kind of adapt to that. Because again, with electric vehicles, there's a lot of different risks to it. But again, coming from like, for example, me and Doug already had a kind of a conversation. I've worked with him for many years now, but I sat down in his office, and I think it was November or October, but and we were talking, and we kind of brought up a cool point that we'll talk about next week, but how this might almost change like home insurance, because again, like, will insurance companies ask you if you have an electric charger at home? Because again, maybe an electric charger, might be fire risks to that. If your home doesn't have enough like service ampage for electrical in your home, does it circuit and cause a fire? That kind of stuff, right? So things that people might not really think is really important to think about. But again, like, the insurance world is going to have to change. Like, will that be a question when you apply for home insurance? Hey, do you have an electric vehicle charger in your home? And will that be surcharged? Like, will that be more of a thing that people really look at when it comes to, okay, do you have a 100 amp or do you have a 200 amp service? Because again, if you're putting one into your home, you're going to have X amount of amps in your home to basically be able to charge your vehicle. Again, if you have two electric vehicles and you charge them at the same time, how does that impact things, right? Is there a bigger risk to that fire risk to that if something short circuits? And again, if you're charging two vehicles at once, right? So there's a lot of different questions that will be kind of answered next week with Doug. So I'm really excited to kind of have him on and kind of chat about it.
Yeah, the big stuff is how does it affect auto insurance? I think rates, right? We've seen a lot of companies start to go over to, a little bit more of the automated driving side of things, which has been obviously in its infant stages now for a couple of years, and what that looks like from a loss perspective, right? So from the insurance company side, getting enough data to be able to say, okay, we have this many automated vehicles. These are the types of claims they're involved in. These are the payouts. How do we properly rate those? Is there less risk or is there more? Who takes the liability over if, you have an automated vehicle and the person's trusting in that and it does still have malfunctions? Or there's all of those conversations that our industry will have to slowly discuss from the insurance company side, not necessarily our side in the brokerage. But it's good to stay in the know, because cars are going to adapt and change. The technologies within them are going to continue to adapt and change. There's lots of discounts that either have been applied or even removed in some cases based on EV vehicles. We've seen that with a couple of specific companies over the last few years. So I'm really interested to see how that affects things on the car insurance side specifically.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a huge surprise, but I think other than Tesla, like Ford has been probably the biggest company pushing for EVs. Just based on, they had the Mach-E that came out, like the Mustang, the Shelby kind of build, like the SUV. They have the Lightning now, the F-150 truck that's basically full electric. So they've, again, other than Tesla, because obviously Tesla's probably going to be the most mainstream, most popular company that's done EVs, and obviously has been very successful with it. Ford, probably from more of a mainstream, maybe I don't really want to say affordable, because if you look at the price tag for some of these vehicles, they are up there, but they are probably the next company up that most people do think about in the mainstream market. There are obviously companies that aren't, like, you don't see them every single day that have done EVs. But again, I think Ford probably, if you just think off the top of your head, some like car companies, they probably are the next biggest other than Tesla that have done EVs in the last 5 years. So yeah, super excited to have him on and kind of chat about some things that Ford's doing, and again, kind of how that relates back to the insurance world. So Mike, super excited to have him next week.
Yeah, that'll be great. And I know that the other thing that I wanted to mention, which is kind of a little bit of a shift, but we're seeing, more talkings about what's going to happen, into 2023 with respect to, that looming recession word and what's going to happen with home and auto insurance rates. We've been in that kind of harder market now for a couple of years, ever since prior to even COVID when we started into it. And I know there's been lots of different articles online about, how that kind of affects home insurance and car insurance for that matter, right? Some of the comparison websites specifically always have info on their consumers, obviously. And some of the big things that I've been reading and seeing is, auto insurance in general, or owning a car, was always a necessity. But when you get into like that little bit more of that kind of recessionary term, it becomes more of a luxury at that point. So less people are shopping for vehicles, which also means less car insurance quotes in general, right? From our side. So there's all of these expenses that end up getting cut, and kind of, is insurance one of those? So, and the shopping process along with it. So that's going to be a big talking point that I don't think we want to overkill by any means in this episode. I just wanted to talk about that briefly, that there's certainly going to be maybe weekly or bi-weekly updates as we enter into this, this next phase, however long that is.
Yeah, there's no shock that we're going into a time, if we already aren't in it, but we're going into more a recession time where, yeah, things are going to tighten up. We've talked numerous times in 2022 about raising interest rates. We had David Holton on for an episode talking about mortgage rates. If you go buy a vehicle, not even just from the home side, but go buy a vehicle right now and look at the interest rate you have. Like before, you used to be able to get like 0.9, 1.9. Like now, like any bill of sale that I'm getting from clients, like I'm seeing 5.9, 6.9 7.9, 8.9 interest rates. So that's obviously going to change a consumer's decision making when it comes to, you know what, I need a new vehicle. Let's go see what I can get. Because again, if I'm paying 0.9 compared to 8.9% interest, that's probably going to sway my decision to go buy a new vehicle this time, right? So definitely going to be a super hot talking point moving into 2023. Again, won't be shocked when a lot of companies probably Q2 start probably increasing rates again, because as rates have gone up and the Bank of Canada has continued to increase inflation and all that kind of stuff, insurance is just one of those financial services that if inflation's continuing to go up, you're going to bet that insurance is also going to go up, because again, it has to stay with that. It has to stay par with what's going on, because everything else can't go up and insurance goes down. It's not, unfortunately, possible.
Yeah, and there's going to be, again, we'll kind of give updates, I think, on it. But we did a few episodes and we've done updates in the past about, how long in general a claims process takes. Many of the articles I've read, and even just trends that I've seen from people, 1 to 2 weeks a few years ago was common, right? People had parts in, so cars would be fixed a lot faster. The rental car would get returned quicker. The overall claims amount would be less. So of course we're going to be fighting that, because we've seen changes in that, right? The last couple of years.
Yeah. Like, for example, my grandmother over Christmas, during that huge windstorm that we had, something flew and hit her truck, and she calls me and she tells me that, so this was like during Christmas time, she tells me that the next appointment to even get her truck in to basically repaint and buffed is February. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like a month, basically almost a month and a half. There's no like physical damage. She can still drive the vehicle, but just to have it repainted and buffed is going to take a month and a half. And I was like, wow, that is insane. Because before, you could just go to any place and they would probably take you same day or like maybe the same week. But like for her to have to book over a month in advance, I was like, wow, how things have changed.
Yeah. It does, right? A lot of things are taking more time in general, almost across the board, right? If you think of anything, I think of, doing a few renos in my basement this past summer and getting some people to do specific trades work. Either A, they were all busy and booked up for months because of the massive demand of people trying to do work, or B, they just weren't available, or it was priced a little too high for me. It wasn't like there was a lot of supply. It was, there's so much demand right now that it was harder to get the right people at the so-called right price, I guess, as I wanted to quote it. So we're seeing that across the board, right, on a lot of things.
Yep.
Think about it. The hot topic for a lot of people, and I know this isn't a political podcast by any means, but I know a lot of people are struggling with food prices, right? Food and grocery prices have been going up for a long time. So that's just another small thing that everyone, has to pay for. And then what do you buy per week? And or do you start going back to less, eating canned foods, things like that, right? So just in general, I think a lot of people are starting to feel the stresses now, even though we kind of show on the outside that we're doing okay. I don't necessarily know that we all actually are.
Exactly. And like personally, like I think feeding yourself and putting a roof over your head is a lot more important than like for car insurance. I always say to clients that driving is not a necessity. It's a privilege. Like, I think you should, like, there should be some sort of, like, not everyone needs to drive. There's like, again, maybe not in rural situations, but if you live in a big city like a Toronto, a Hamilton, London, Ottawa, like, there are ways of public transportation. And again, like, you don't always need to be able to drive a vehicle. There are other ways to get around. So, personally, like if I was in a situation where I needed to either feed my family or put a roof over my family, I'm definitely cutting insurance, like especially car insurance, maybe not home insurance. Cause again, like I believe home insurance is a lot more important than auto insurance, but that's another whole topic. But again, you will start seeing people getting to that point where, you know what, either I'm going to feed myself, put a roof over my head, or I'm going to have this car and insure it and pay all the maintenance fees on it. Kind of what am I going to trade in, right? So we're not there yet. I think it would take a lot for us to get there, but again, we are kind of moving in that way where I've already had conversations with clients that they're like, you know what, like to pay for insurance, to pay for groceries, to pay to live, to rent my home, to own my home, whatever it is, it's getting really tight for people.
Yeah, we'll start to see that. So, I mean, yeah, just talking. We'll keep updates on what we're seeing more for the insurance side of things, so that if people are interested in knowing that, I mean, I think that's one of the common things we'll do on the weekly is just kind of give even a 5-minute segment towards maybe what's happening or what's changing or things like that. But we wanted to do this episode more of a welcome back for everyone. You know, obviously it's been a few weeks since the holidays and whatnot, and now we're back in business and ramping up. We got James, did you want to quickly mention, I know we didn't want to keep it too long today, but just quickly mention we also have another dealer partner of yours coming in as well later?
Yes. So at the end of January, we are going to have Kim Pham. She's actually a dealer that I work with out of London for Forest City Mazda. I've actually been working with her for probably just over a year now, but the thing that really kind of gravitated me towards her is her social media is unreal. Like the things that she does on social media is so intriguing. And she just kind of like, I had a chat with her again, probably in November when I went down to London, but she kind of said, she's like, you know what? I was never really super comfortable like filming myself on TikTok and that kind of stuff. But again, she kind of just like did it. And she was like, wow, like the reception that she was getting from her clients and even people just from like the platforms that she's on was insane. So again, gonna have her on at the end of January. I do want she's gonna kind of come in, talk about what things that Maz is doing moving into 2023. But again, a lot of her conversation is going to probably be around like her social media and stuff and what she's been doing, how she's been successful, and kind of how that would almost touch base on the insurance side. Again, I know Mike doesn't really do a lot of social media, but again, for myself, like I do post a lot, but again, kind of taking some like tips and stuff that she kind of does on a daily basis and kind of how you can kind of implement that into your own business. Because again, the things I've seen her do, very, very interesting, very, very intriguing. And again, like in the kind of digital world that we live in, very almost every business is basically online now or has some sort of online presence. So it's going to be really important to have her on and kind of chat about like how she's built her business, but also kind of give an insight on kind of what Maz is doing and kind of how might that impact insurance moving into 2023 as well.
Yeah, it'd be great to pick her brain on that kind of stuff too, because I know we've had me and you have had very, very minor chats about it. But remember when we first started up doing this, and I think we've grown a lot in the last 6 months of doing episodes. But I remember us first kind of brainstorming some ideas, and it was, how do we implement, the possibility of video in the future too, right? So sometimes it's about getting the right people to give the right insight, and also just giving that little bit of a nudge. So it'll be great to even pick her brain for a couple of minutes on that and how she's succeeded in that space.
Yeah, video has always been something that like I've wanted to get into, because then again, it kind of puts us in other platforms, right? You can make clips, you can put them on Instagram and TikTok. You can basically start a YouTube channel with basically the podcast goes on there too, right? And then on top of that, then you can take all the audio and still post it to like the Spotify and the Apple Music and Amazon Music and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to sit here and say video is definitely going to be coming for the Broker Breakdown in 2023. Is it going to be an idea that we explore later on in the year? Possibly. It really just depends on kind of how the traction goes and how we kind of build moving into 2023. Don't get me wrong, it is something that me and Mike have discussed. It just there is a lot of logistics behind it, kind of to get a place to record, to make sure everything's recording properly, all that kind of stuff. But again, it is something that me and Mike have talked about. But again, if we can kind of pick someone's brain that already kind of does the video recording and stuff and how she's been successful, then again, it's something that we would love to do, because then it kind of just gives us a little push into possibly doing it either later on in 2023, or maybe that's a goal for 2024 that we get onto the video side of things.
You never know, right? The possible. I mean, a lot of people in general have been doing videos for a long time. Some people are amazing at them. A lot others just kind of jump in and see where it goes, right? So I think there's no right or wrong answer, I guess is what my point is.
Yeah, no. But yeah, kind of just wrapping things up. Again, we're going to kind of stick to the Tuesday releases. So we basically record the Wednesday prior and then we release that episode the Tuesday afterwards. Our big goal for 2023 is we would like to see one guest per month. I know January we kind of packed two in just because I was chatting with a lot of the people that I deal with over the holiday break there, and I got a few people to confirm. So that's kind of our big goal, is to make sure that we're continuously posting every Tuesday. But again, we also kind of want to grow and get more people on the podcast, because then again, like we were saying early in the episode, it kind of just gives that outsider's view on things. It's not just me and Mike talking from the insurance industry. Like, we're only seeing insurance stuff. I don't really want to use the word bias, but again, when you have two insurance brokers probably seeing the same stats, the same articles, it can become a little bit of an insider's view. So again, if we can kind of get an outsider's view on things and how things are viewed, then again, that kind of just gives a little bit more of a educational point for a lot of our viewers to kind of see someone that's not me or Mike kind of talk about the topics that we do want to talk about. So that's kind of what we want to focus on for 2023. Again, just stay consistent for you guys. Again, we always say, if you guys have topics you guys do want us to talk about, please don't be shy. Reach out to us. If you have ideas, if you don't think that we've posted something like that, again, me and Mike will always try to make an episode on it. Again, we can't guarantee that a topic's going to have enough like meat and bones behind it to do a full episode. But again, if we can have like a segment of an episode talk about a topic that you guys are really passionate about or might have more questions about, don't be shy to reach out to myself or Mike, and we can definitely kind of work it in. Again, if you guys have other questions or concerns, please reach out to us, because again, as me and Mike continue to do this, we're obviously improving every day. But if there are things you would like us to improve on, or changes you guys would like us to make to the podcast, again, we're always open ears to any suggestions you guys might have.
And I hope everyone had a great holidays as well, because I know that we certainly had recharge time. The insurance industry in general is typically a little slower as well, as it ramps up in January. December, I think, historically speaking, is probably the slowest month of the year. January typically is a little bit slower as well, only because people are coming off of Christmas breaks with, stretched expenses in the Christmas front. But as we get into the end of January, February, March, it starts ramping back up for the springtime. So there's going to be lots of upcoming trends happening. Usually, I think real estate as well is typically a little bit slower from some of my partners that I've spoke with in on Christmas, just because of people are buying things in the winter or not buying things in the winter, I should say. So we'll start seeing some more things ramping up, and that'll give us some more topics as well to move forward.
Yeah, like I said, super excited for 2023. Again, we're just kind of getting into the few first days of it, so there's really not much going on at this given moment. I think a lot of companies really take this time to, again, recharge, kind of get their plan under wraps and kind of really see what they want to do. So you'll probably see things start getting announced probably into the end of January, beginning of February, and then kind of just throughout the year after that. They really don't like to just lay it on thick right at the beginning of the year. But yeah, Mike, I'm super excited for us and kind of how we grow the podcast moving into 2023. Again, I do want to thank everyone that kind of stuck with us during 2022. I know we started off really hot in the springtime, had some personal stuff go on during the summer, so we took that massive break in the summer months, came back, and then we basically recorded strong from, I think it was October all the way to the end of December. So again, kind of just putting that consistent effort in to make sure that we get weekly episodes posted. If things do change, again, we will let you guys know. We're human, things do happen. So if we can't get an episode out, we'll definitely let you guys know. But again, we did want to thank you guys for kind of sticking with us, for coming back. I know me and Mike are really, really excited, but we are really hoping by the end of January, we will hit our 100th listen. So me and Mike are super excited about that, because again, you start from zero and you're like, oh, we got one every week. And then now we're like, oh, wow. Like now we're like two or three every day. So it just continues to grow. So again, we just kind of want to thank you guys for your support, and looking forward to 2023.
Yeah. Nothing else from me. I think we are excited. We're good to go.
Yes, but yeah, we'll see you guys next week with Doug Bricknell and kind of talk about some EVs, and then later on this month with Kim Pham, and super excited to get some more guests on. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I guess we're gonna dub this season 2 of the Broker Breakdown. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll check you guys next week.